following footage you are about to see is raw, unscripted footage of a paranormal investigation of an alleged haunted location by the Southern Indiana ghost hunters. Any evidence, if any, that is found within this footage is the interpretation of the Southern Indiana ghost hunters, but may not be the only explainable reason for such evidence. It's up to the viewer to decide.
Good morning and welcome back to SIGH. This is the channel that talks about the Southern Indiana Ghost Hunters. And my name is Mike L. Flickner. I am the founder of the Southern Indiana Ghost Hunters. And today we're going over some old investigations. You see, when the Southern Indiana Ghost Hunters first started out, we didn't have loads of equipment that we could take out to investigations. A lot of times it was just a notebook, flashlight, EVP recorder, and a camera. And we captured some pretty interesting things at these old investigations, and some things that we didn't know existed in the world. I mean, I've heard of hoaxes and stuff like that before, but there's some things that just turn out to be legend. So this first story we're going to look at involves Terre Haute, Indiana, in an old graveyard with a legend of a spirit ghost.
John G. Heine died in 1921, and the legend of Stiffy Green was born. Stiffy was said to be a loyal pet bulldog that refused to leave the side of his master even in death. When John died, Stiffy could always be found at the steps of the mausoleum watching over his master's remains. It is said that Stiffy would not eat or drink or sleep, keeping a watchful eye over his master. Stiffy was found dead at the mausoleum one day, supposedly from starvation. The family decided to have Stiffy stuffed with green eyes and put in the mausoleum so that he could be close to his lifelong companion. At night, the local kids would sneak into the cemetery to shine flashlights through the glass doors and see the green glow of Stiffy's eyes staring back at them. In the 1980s, kids became bored with just shining flashlights and listening for barking coming from the direction of the mausoleum. So instead, they turned to vandalism and decided to fire shots into the mausoleum. One of the shots blew out one of Stiffy's eyes. So the local Lions Club decided, as a useful public service, to build a replica of the mausoleum inside of the County Historical Museum. And Stiffy was moved into it in 1998 for safekeeping and has been there for ever since. Many people to this day insist that you can still hear barking on certain nights and sometimes see a man and his dog walking amongst the tombstones. The truth behind the legend. Stiffy never was a real dog, but was a concrete statue that sat on the front porch of the Heine home and was a favorite of Mr. Heine. Is the place really haunted? If you go there, even in the daylight hours, you get a sense of being watched by something inside of the mausoleum, something unseen. Be sure to visit the statue of Stiffy at the County Historical Museum. It's as if he is watching for you.
Stiffy Green is an amazing tale. And, you know, for a while I'd heard about this story and I thought, you know, this is a pretty cool tale. So we went to investigate it, and of course we found out Stiffy was not a real dog, and a lot of it's based in legend. But we started getting phone calls from people all over Indiana and different parts of the country that wanted us to come check out their locations. So we went to this next location, which I thought was pretty interesting, and it's called the Fishers private residence.
In the early days, SIGH would do its investigations with mainly a camera, flashlights, and an EVP recorder. And some of our findings turned out pretty good. SIGH was requested to do an investigation at private residence in Fishers, Indiana, Hartford City. SIGH invited Corin and SIGH to team up on this investigation. The couple at this home showed us some surveillance video of the children's room that clearly shows an ectomist forming out of a mirror. During our investigation, we did not experience much, but did come out with a very clear EVP. Maggie, Tiffany, and Josh were in the master bedroom doing some EVP work, and this is what we found on the tape.
Are you a reenactor?
During this investigation, Josh thought that the spirits of a reenactor of the Civil War might be included in some of these EVPs that we're capturing. And on this EVP here, you'll hear Josh actually say, "Are you a reenactor?" But you'll hear the answer afterwards, which was quite strange, and before Josh even says that.
Are you a reenactor?
At the beginning of this EVP, you will hear a voice come across saying, "Margaret, I need you." Then you'll hear Josh say, "Are you a reenactor?" Then the voice again replies with, "What?" Then it says, "Need you, I'll teach you."
Are you a reenactor?
Could this be a spirit that was actually reaching out to Margaret? And what was it trying to teach her? I guess we'll never know.
As you can see with Fishers, the main thing we captured there was EVP. And it was an interesting EVP. We did see some amazing pictures there, but we didn't get any copies of the pictures because they were taken by the family. But it was still an interesting story to us. And we had a call there afterwards to go down to Georgia to check out a place called Corpsewood. Well, we didn't make it to Corpsewood yet, but we did make it to Chattooga, Georgia. And this is quite interesting. We amped up on our equipment then, and take a look at it and see what you think.
This episode of SIGH takes us south to Chattooga County, Georgia, the last of the original 13 colonies, Georgia was established in 1732 and became a slave state in 1749. Georgia joined the ranks of the Confederate States on January 21st, 1861. When it declared secession from the Union, this area was heavily involved with major battles during the war between the states. We did some brief research on the history of the area. We investigated and discovered the area to be originally settled by Cherokee Indians. The forcible removal of native Cherokee tribes began here about 1830 and was accelerated by the Cherokee Land Lottery of 1832. The area was originally part of Cherokee County, later becoming Floyd and Walker counties. Finally, Chattooga County was created from these two counties in December of 1838. SIGH had the opportunity to visit some of the small forgotten cemeteries there. This is the summary of one in particular, the Mount Joy Cemetery, found in Subligma, Georgia, the site of a once black church that was burnt during the race wars of the early 60s, and now all but nearly forgotten. SIGH decided to try and communicate with some of the permanent residents that may still reside there. We're at the Mount Joy Church and Cemetery in Georgia, and it's rumored that this was a black church at one time. And I got a good friend here with me. His name is Robert. I'm going to let Robert tell you a little bit of the history of this area.
My name is Robert Scott. I wasn't raised in this area, but from what I've heard, used to be a black church right in here. Apparently they used to walk to church along the dirt road. That's where they lived, and from what I've found, there's no remnants of any houses or the church or anything, just the cemetery.
Investigation of Mount Joy Church Cemetery. And as you can see, I want to show you how we've set up our equipment this evening. We've actually got EVP recorders set out. We got cell meters in different locations. Another cell meter. Back here on this stone, we got the tri-field meter. More EVP recorders back here in the far stone. We've got a full spectrum cam here. We're actually going to use a radiation detector. So we're about to get the hunt underway. Just wanted to scan the area for y'all real quick so you see what we're looking at. Now the darkness, please. Whatever's here, we've lost it. Here, we've lost it. Here, we've lost it.
Well, my conclusion of the cemetery, of the Mount Joy Cemetery, is I believe that there is something that could possibly be here, but I believe it's kind of weak at the moment. Not to say that it can't gather energy and become stronger as time goes on. And who knows, maybe even tonight it'll be stronger, but our time's running kind of short here, and we're going to have to move on to another location. So thank you for sticking with us throughout this investigation. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Some of these stories that I'm telling you here can be related back to the books about us, especially in this book, The Southern Indiana Ghost Hunter Chronicles. You'll find some of the stories in there, but there are other stories that didn't quite make it to books. And this is an older investigation that we really didn't take much of anything but our cameras and EVP recorders too. And it was a very interesting location. And this was at Hartford City in Indiana. We went there, there was people that bought this old residence that used to be the Hartford County Hospital. And we would go there and check it out. And it turned out to be pretty interesting. We did see a lot of amazing things there. We captured a few EVPs there. It was one of the very first places that I've seen water faucets turn on by themselves. And we heard footsteps throughout the building. So it's a pretty interesting little case. In November of 2009, SIGH was contacted to check out the old Hartford City Hospital in central Indiana. The hospital is now abandoned, but the owners had experienced some paranormal activity in the past. When we first arrived at the hospital, we experienced personal experiences almost immediately. One of the most active areas of the hospital seems to be centered around the central hallway. We kept seeing shadow apparitions walking up and down this hallway. At one point, toward the center stairwell, we could hear footsteps on the second floor, but no one was on the second floor at that time. Our K2 meter went crazy in the children's wing, and several times when we would ask for spirits to make themselves be known, we were answered by bangs and crashes. Although we did not capture anything on film, we did acquire some EVP. Here is one of the EVPs that we captured on the second floor towards the end of the evening. You will hear investigators talking, but you will hear a gravelly voice in the background. Then you will hear what sounds like a bang at the end. You will hear what sounds like a low moan. The investigation into this hospital was a numerous investigation, meaning it took us quite a while, with between footsteps going off and on throughout the place and faucets turning on by themselves and us having to turn them off. It was a very, very interesting investigation. I'd like to thank you for visiting with me today and going through some of these old investigations. This is part one of the old investigations of the Southern Indiana Ghost Hunters. And we will be doing a few more coming shortly. So keep your eye out for that. Other than that, thank you for visiting with me today, and I'll see you on the next episode of SIGH, the story of SIGH.